thank you everyone so much for joining us today, as always, and this month for getting EB active for our August town hall. We're so grateful to see so many of you joining us today from really all over the world. We've got families, supporters, researchers, event organizers, and leaders, and who knows, maybe some new event leaders on the call as well. So a very big welcome to all of you. For this month's town hall, we're excited to be joined by a series of incredible event leaders for an inspiring and motivating discussion on how to engage your communities to amplify your efforts and create a butterfly effect for EB. Today, you'll hear from Annie McKenzie on founding Pursuit for Patterson, a family and friends-driven nonprofit to advocate for her son, Patterson, and raise awareness and funds for butterfly children all over the world. You'll hear from Laura Go on her powerful introduction to the EB community that led to her founding and organizing events with Eliana's Army. And lastly, you'll hear from various members of the Ripple family. I think we've got the whole crew on the line on how their core values combined with their passions to bring EB awareness and fundraising to the next level. Lastly, we'll wrap things up, as always, with an audience Q&A session and some next steps and some tips for getting involved. For that Q&A session, we will prioritize the questions that were pre-submitted when you registered. But of course, that being said, please feel free to send any questions as they arise via the Zoom chat, which Katrina on our team will be monitoring. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can live, but if we don't get to your question, don't worry, I will follow up personally with an answer for you shortly after today's town hall. Before I pass it on over to our incredible speakers, I just wanted to start with a bit of context on why we're here today, give some background on EBRP for any new faces in the crowd, and most importantly, chat a bit about our EB Active program. So EBRP is the largest global nonprofit dedicated to funding research to accelerate treatments and ultimately find a cure for EB as quickly as possible. We also believe that the science and technology that we fund and our innovative venture philanthropy model can and will be scaled to build a blueprint for the 400 million people around the world living with a rare disease. And since our inception, we've made a lot of progress towards that goal, including raising over $70 million to fund more than 160 really innovative and promising EB research projects. And through the acceleration of these projects, we've helped to transform the EB landscape from just 2 clinical trials when we started to now over 50, more than half of which EBRP has directly funded, and most importantly, from 0 treatments to 3 FDA-approved treatments just in the past 2 years. Now, all of this momentum is, of course, super exciting and truly would not be possible without the support of so many of you on this call and the initiatives that you've started, but these milestones are just that. They're stepping stones on our journey to a cure, and our team is more laser-focused than ever on delivering that cure for our community. To achieve this goal, we need to continue to fund and accelerate the most innovative EB science all around the world, which is why EBRP hosts 2 open calls for research grant applications every year. And now I am certainly not a scientist, by no means. We have a very experienced and dedicated scientific advisory board to review these projects, but I get to see them come in the door. And let me tell you, there is some really, really incredibly innovative and exciting work being done in this space right now. Stuff that sounds like science fiction, such as organoids, spray-on skin, and so much more. There's really, really no shortage of science to accelerate, but the key is having enough funding to do so. And that's where EB Active can come in. EB Active is EBRP's community events program that allows leaders like you all to come to us with an idea for an initiative or fundraising event. We'll provide you with personalized resources and one-on-one support to rally your community and make that event a success and a great time too. And all of the proceeds that you raise will directly benefit promising EB research project to accelerate healing for EB. EB Active brings to life the idea that small actions can make a big impact. And we've really seen this to be true. Last year alone, the efforts of our community events combined to raise a grand total of over $1 million for the first time ever. And we know that with your help, we can continue to make this program a bigger success every single year until a cure is found. So what exactly does this program look like, and how can EBRP help? Getting involved looks different for everyone, and there's truly no shortage of creative ways to get involved. We've seen EBRP race car driving, concerts, biking across the country, rock painting, bracelet making, 5Ks, half marathons, family fiestas, golf tournaments, butterfly balls, polar plunges, virtual poker, and so much more, including some exciting events that you'll be hearing about shortly from our speakers. And while all of these events might look very different from each other, at their core, they're all about communities that have been inspired to get together and take action. And EBRP is here to support these kinds of events and more with unique support based on your needs. If you're interested in hosting a fundraising event, our team is here as much as you need us every step of the way, including personalized event planning guides, custom donation and ticketing pages, which allow your donors to not only support your events really directly and easily, but also to get automatic text receipts for their support. We will provide social media support and graphics creation, email templates for things like fundraising asks, logistics support such as identifying venues and vendors, permitting, insurance, all the boring stuff that shouldn't get in the way of you planning a fun event. You don't have to deal with that. Outreach assistance to potential supporters or sponsors, large-scale promotion on our social channels, and of course in our monthly newsletter, custom merchandise, one-on-one planning calls with the EBRP team, and more. Truly, whatever you need, our team is here to help. With that, it is now my pleasure to introduce you to our amazing speakers who have all gotten EB Active in their own ways. Firstly, we're honored to be joined by Annie McKenzie, who co-founded Pursuit for Patterson after her son Patterson was diagnosed with recessive dystrophic EB. Through a series of initiatives and creative events, their goal is to raise awareness, support other EB families, and help drive critical research forward. Annie is a fierce advocate driven by hope and a deep belief that together we can change the future for those living with EB. Also with us today, we have Laura Go, who is the Executive Director of Eliana's Army, a nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness and funds for EB. Eliana's Army is named after Eliana Campbell, a baby who passed away at 10 months old recently from junctional EB, and whose story went viral on social media, bringing a ton of awareness to EB and the mission to cure it. Laura and Eliana's Army organize fundraisers across the country and the world to help EB families with small gestures of support. And last but certainly not least, we're thrilled to have the Ripple family with us, Damien, Allison, and their 4 children, Tyler, Sammy, Maya, and Julia. As a family, they are avid travelers, lovers of live music, and enjoy rallying around causes that are important to them. Initially through the awareness created by Pearl Jam about EB and EBRP's efforts to eradicate EB, in 2014, the Ripple family began their journey with us, and they've become mini ambassadors of the cause ever since through a series of fun and unique fundraisers. They strongly value the life lessons and family togetherness that their journey with the EB community has enabled, and they are optimistic that the research, FDA approvals, and momentum will help EB patients manage their condition today and will ultimately find a cure for EB once and for all. So a huge thank you to all of our speakers for taking the time to join us today, and of course for all of your incredible efforts to benefit the EB community. We are so endlessly grateful for your support and your enthusiasm. And with that, it is my pleasure to pass it over to you, Annie.
Oh, thank you. Hello. I see so many familiar faces, and it's such an honor to be here again. I think I joined last October to talk a little bit about the plunge. So it's so exciting to be here. But I think, for those of you who I haven't met, I think the most important thing for you to know about me is I am Patterson's mom. And he is our 10-year-old son living with dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa. And also, who you won't see today is my husband, Peter, Patterson's dad. But we are quite a team together. So when we talk today about all of our events, he's really been a huge part of these events as well. So we live just outside of Seattle. And are able to participate when our EB friends come to town. But we also host a number of events around the Seattle area. And we've also hosted in other parts of the country as well. But today I really want to share how our heartbreaking diagnosis of EB really has evolved into our mission to just help others, along with Patterson, to have a better quality of life. And our goal is to really just do our part in funding for a cure. The early months, Patterson's diagnosis, it was very difficult and shocking. And I think just that's very similar to what other EB families have described when they've received their diagnoses. But Patterson was born with missing skin, mostly on his fingers, and quickly we noticed on his legs some blistering. We noticed some blistering on his feet. And as the nurses began cleaning him and doing their basic testing, there just continued to be little issues of missing skin, and spots began to appear. So after a week in the hospital, we went home with no answers. And we watched his skin daily and panicked over every little blister or spot. So finally, at 1 month old, we did receive our biopsy results, and it was recessive dystrophic EB. And so those early months were super overwhelming for us. My husband Peter and I were consumed with like research and learning how, to bandage the wounds, none of which the bandaging was not covered under insurance. So we quickly recognized not only the emotional burden, but the financial burden of this disease. And it was kind of like do we pop this blister? Do we not pop this blister? Do we tell people about this? Do we not tell people about this? And so, you know, making appointments, trying to educate others, we were just, we knew very little about it ourselves. And we quickly learned how a small blister could grow into serious damage. So I think it's safe to say we were in a little bit of grief and despair, and we didn't want to talk about our EB story. We didn't want the pity. We didn't want the burden from others, or for others to feel the burden of our diagnosis. And so navigating questions from strangers and even people that we knew were really just a mixed bag. It was, we didn't expect others to know about EB because we had just learned about it ourselves. And it took quite a while for us to get down an elevator speech and really understand who needed that elevator speech and who really just needed the basic answer as to why our son was bandaged. And while people meant well, there were comments like, oh, I hope he gets better soon, or comparisons to like a rash that other people had experienced that really were just emotionally tough to hear. And so we did have a turning point. A cousin came to visit in the early months of Patterson's life, and she kind of just gave us some tough love. It was a message of support, but it was like no one's burdened or pitied by your situation. People just really want to help and support. And it was the perspective and like that shift that really is what we needed to turn our pain into purpose. So we launched Pursuit for Patterson shortly thereafter with no fundraising experience. And really, it was just a deep desire to help others facing the same challenges as we were. And we knew firsthand, how expensive and isolating this diagnosis could be. So our first event was a chili cook-off in our garage. And it was like in October, we had decorated for Halloween. We all wore costumes, and we just invited some coworkers, neighbors, and friends. And we did a small silent auction, and we had like a gift card pull. And really the best part about it was we had this big board, and we highlighted like 12 other kids that we had met in those months, just online or virtually, but it was just this board highlighting other kids with EB. And that day we raised $4,000, and it was not what we expected, but it was amazing. And many of those same supporters still show up to our events today. So we've grown from the garage. So we've done some other things like silent auctions at local bars and restaurants. We've done, it's open to the public, so it draws in curious patrons to kind of come in and see what we're doing. So that's been really fun. We did like a fitness fundraiser at my gym. It was like you pay 90 for a 90-minute, like it was a mixed fit like dance class, but it was super fun. And we sold some P4P gear, and we made quite a bit of money doing that. Peter really is the powerhouse behind our golf tournaments, because I don't know a ton of golfers, but he filled the course with golfers. And we did that for a number of years before COVID. And it was for sure one of our favorite events. We've also hosted pub crawls, which are a little less family friendly, but It's super fun and it can be a creative way. You can have like games and challenges at each stop, which has been fun. And we've also had friends and family like run in like the marathons or trail running and wearing, awareness clothing for whether it be for Pursuit for Paterson or EBRP. But it's just another way to get awareness out there. And we've seen a lot of, support from that. Currently we are doing it's a football survival game. So it's not fantasy football. And I know like I would have been out the minute that I heard about that too, but it's a survival league. So you don't have to know anything about football, and it's going on right now. And we take a $20 donation, and you just have to pick one team to win each week. Like you don't have to follow it. You don't have to know the players. You just pick a team to win. And last year we had 105 people sign up for that. And so our goal this year is to have more, but it's a low effort, really fun way to engage mostly people we don't know. It's like coworkers, friends, and their families and things like that. So so that's currently what we do that every fall, and it's really fun. Um, Peter and I are in the process of, it's our newest adventure. We're in the early planning stages of hosting a bunko night, which is something new and social, but it's really inspired. My sisters in where we grew up in Wyoming did a bingo night at their local brewery. And, many places like host a bingo night or a trivia night. And they asked if they could do a night for charity, and they ended up raising quite a bit of money. I think they raised like $2,500 just doing that on a night that was already set. And it's just a great opportunity to raise funds in a casual setting that's really fun. And so, and then recently we've had someone reach out and wants to do like a CrossFit fundraiser. And I don't do CrossFit, so I don't know what that's all about. But it's these kinds of, community inspired events that are just really powerful. So, I'm just going to leave you with some final thoughts as I think about our journey in fundraising. And we started with no experience in a garage and a pot of chili, but we have like a lot of heart behind all of that, right? So, every event, big or small, has really helped us build our community, raise awareness, and support the EB community. So if you're thinking of hosting something, just know it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be personal. So I would say never dismiss the power of people. And there's just something so joyful and so transformative about that human connection. And especially in fundraising. So fundraising is so much more than just asking for money. For us, it's about building relationships and just being, inspired and inspiring belief in a cause. And so such a small act of like a heartfelt thank you or a, personal invitation can just lead to such a large impact. So, what we've learned through Paterson is that we just can never underestimate the influence of one person. And, he is the reason that so many people give and choose to give in our community, but it could be any of you too. So thank you for everyone on the call that's listening and maybe feeling inspired and supporting families like ours.
Thank you so much, Annie, for sharing your journey, some great tips, and some really beautiful advice. We're so grateful for your continued leadership in this space, and of course, to have you with us today. If anyone has any questions for Annie, you can pop them in the chat now, and we'll try to address as many of those as possible in our Q&A session when we wrap up. With that, I'll pass it on over to you, Laura.
My name is Laura Go. As mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Eliana Army. I do want to clarify, I am not the founder of Eliana Army. That has been a massive group effort, and I'll get more into that historically. A little bit about me. You can go to the next slide. I am the controller for several different companies. That's a glorified way of saying almost like a CFO. I run the financials for multiple companies. I'm the wife and I'm a mom to two littles. And I credit being a mom to why EB really pulled me in and why I'm here. And then, like I mentioned, I'm the executive director of Eliana's Army. And I can't go any further without introducing you to Eliana. If you're not familiar with her, Eliana Campbell was a baby who was born in May of last year and diagnosed with junctional EB. And her mom started a TikTok account for her that quickly went viral. And I learned about her from her video where she went to the beach. Her parents took her to the beach, and you can see that in the picture up here from that video. And the video is captioned, taking my terminally ill baby to the beach because I don't know what tomorrow holds. And of course, made me emotional. I'm going to get emotional thinking about it, but it's just like, oh my gosh, I want to, she's so beautiful. Look at her eyes. And I wanted to know what is going on with this baby. And so her TikTok account had almost 1 million followers and raised a lot of awareness about this disease, and is one of the reasons why Eliana's Army, well, is the reason Eliana's Army exists today. Ellie lost her battle in April of this year. She was 10 months old. So who is Eliana's Army? We started off as a Facebook group. Someone else in social media, Caitlin Smith, created a TikTok video saying she wanted to sell little rubber bracelets to help raise funds, and thought, let's start a group text and see if we can get this organized. And the group text quickly blew up and became a little overwhelming. So we started a Facebook group, and they eventually pulled me in because, as I mentioned, I'm a controller and I'm very good at controlling things. So somehow I became an admin. And so here I am. Now we are working towards becoming a nonprofit. We've applied for our 501c3 status. It's pending, but we're hoping that will happen soon. And then also we like to describe ourselves as a movement of especially people who aren't directly affected by EB. Most of us don't have family members with EB, but we just have become aware of this via social media and want to use social media to continue to raise awareness. Some of the things we've done, the very first event we did was a memorial walk for Ellie. So Hannah Campbell, which is Ellie's mom, was gracious enough to stream Ellie's funeral on her TikTok account. And during that funeral, the pastor mentioned that Hannah had been planning a memorial walk for, it wasn't supposed to be a memorial walk. It was supposed to just be a Hope for Healing walk for Ellie. She had been planning it for a few weeks. Of course, when Ellie passed, we all kind of assumed that probably won't happen. And so I reached out to her and said, hey, you've got millions of people wanting to participate in this in some way. Can I help plan this for you? We'll make it happen. And you just sit back and we'll honor your baby. And she said, sure, yes, I'd love for it to happen. I just don't have the time or energy to do it. So we planned an in-person walk at her hometown in Bangor and Brewer, Maine. And we also had a virtual component for that. Of course, this event is a little bit of an anomaly because most people don't have 1 million followers on TikTok. But because of her massive following, lots of people wanted to be involved. So we did have over 300 participants. We raised over $31,000. And that event came together in just 6 weeks. We credit the success of that to her social media following and to the community just wanting to be involved. When you tell someone there was a baby in your community that just passed last week and we're planning a walk for her, can you help us? Everyone wanted to jump in and say yes. So it was really helpful to have the community involved and to have thousands and thousands of people around the world who wanted to participate. We had people from like 28 different countries participating in this. It was a really fun, just sweet event for us. And we partnered with EBRP for that. Thank you, Allison, for all of your help. Thankfully, we didn't have too many out-of-pocket costs up front, but Allison would help us pay for the t-shirts to send out. And one of the things that you might be asking, well, why would a virtual participant pay money to walk? And the answer is, number one, they wanted to support anyways. but also we provided a t-shirt for them that featured Ellie's footprint. And everyone kind of just went crazy for that because of her popularity, I guess, for lack of a better word. Another event that we just finished up is Wings of Courage. That one was a really cool one where Aisha Khalik, who is the mother of Caroline Georgia. Caroline Georgia passed away on August 11th of last year. Aisha wanted to have this skydiving fundraiser where people all over the world would skydive in honor or in memory of someone with EB. And so we said, hey, can we help you plan that? And she said, yes, please. Of course, she's still in the throes of grief too, so she didn't have all the time and energy to put into it. So Eliana's Army stepped in and said, we can do it. So that just ended. We had 30 teams participate. We raised a little over $14,000. That one, of course, wasn't going to be as high of an earning fundraiser because skydiving is expensive. But thankfully, a lot of the companies, when you reach out and said, hey, we've got someone who wants to skydive at your location, but this is why they're doing it. They're doing it for Caroline Georgia, or they're doing it for Ellie, or they're doing it for Hallie Grace, or whatever. And those companies, many of them said, oh yeah, I'll let them jump for free. Just feature us as a sponsor for the event. Or we can't do free, but we can do half off, or whatever the case may be. And so we learned that if you just share stories, it really makes a difference. The next thing we did was a bracelet raffle, and that sounds really silly, but again, this is part of Ellie's popularity. They Names for Good is a company that made these Ellie beaded bracelets. They're just friendship bracelets, but to buy one from them was like $45, which is pretty expensive for a friendship bracelet. And the company was gracious enough to gift us 10 of them. And the initial idea was we could just sell them at the in-person walk for Ellie. But I started thinking there's got to be a better way to make more money off of these because everyone knows her story. And so we opened up a raffle where if you just donated $1, you got an entry. And that allowed people who couldn't necessarily afford to buy a $45 bracelet at least cross their fingers and hope. And we raised over $3,000 with just 10 bracelets, which really proud of. And we've done some other things too, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to talk about how to plan a great fundraiser. And what we have found is you have to tell a story. EB is an awful disease, as everyone here knows, but I would venture to say most of us did not learn about EB just as some random general disease. Most of us came across this through learning someone's story. And stories are what has connected humans for thousands of years. And so being able to tell a story is what really is going to pull people in and make them want to participate. Another thing you could do is make connections. It helps to know people, but it doesn't have to be the rich and powerful. Everyone has skills, and one of the most important gifts that people can give is of their time. So Eliana's Army has over 800 members, and each one of those wants to be involved in some way, shape, or form. And so we put them to work. Hey, you've got a few minutes. Can you draft up this email and ask for sponsorship for this event that we're doing, or whatever it may be? But making those connections with people in your community and those around you, and getting help, which I will talk more about in a minute. And then also knowing your audience and getting in front of them often. Of course, we were in a weird, unique situation where we were kind of riding the wave of the social media prominence of Ellie and her story. And we were a bit naive to think that all fundraising from here on out will be just as easy because everyone's going to hear about this and want to participate. And that's just not true. We also thought that a good social media campaign might be the answer to fundraising in general. And that's not always true either. For example, right now we are planning a formal gala for a baby named Darcy in the UK, and that's partnering with Deborah UK. And social media has been relatively irrelevant in there. And what we've learned is that the best way to advertise there is put a paper flyer up at the grocery store. That's what people see. That's how, in the UK, that's how events are known and made known. And that's been a learning curve for me. So knowing who your audience is and making sure you're getting in front of them on something. And then some tips and tricks learned from our mistakes. Number one, slow down. The need for funds is ever present, but a well thought out event will be more successful. I will say not everything has to be major. You don't have to do this giant walk. You don't have to do a skydiving fundraiser. Little things do make a difference, of course, but if you are going for something big, slow down and think about it and make sure you've got your pieces in place. Ask for help. Of course, EBRP is here and they've got their team here ready to help. Eliana's Army is here. This is what we do now. This is the space that we have seen could use some filling, and so we're here to help as well. Finding people who have different strengths than you and using those. I am not good at writing, for example, so I love using my teammates to help write stuff for our social media posts. And then talk about it. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier was little things can become fundraisers and things you don't even expect. So being in your community and just talking about it with the community you're already in. So for me, I go and get, Botox and facials. And so I was talking to the owner of the company that I go to, and she said, and I was telling her about, I was wearing an Eliana's Army shirt, and she said, what is that? And I was telling her all about it and showed her a video of Ellie, and it's just like, it's so heartbreaking, but I was wondering, you're all about good skin. Would you consider partnering with us for a fundraiser? And she said, absolutely. And so she already had this open house event scheduled for October. And this, I had approached her about this back in May. And she said, why don't you just come on board and you don't need to do anything, just show up and I'll donate a portion of my proceeds from the evening. Well, that's easy. I mean, it couldn't have been any easier than that. So you just never know who you talk to that might want to be involved in some way. And then swag rules, shirts, cups, souvenirs, being able to give something away to people instead of just asking for donations, being able to say, if you donate a certain amount, you get a t-shirt or you get something. Not only is it instant gratification for them, everyone likes getting stuff, right? But it also makes a lasting impression. So when they're wearing their swag, it opens up these conversations that they get to talk about later to other people, and it raises a ton of awareness. And again, you just never know the domino effect of these types of things. And so we have learned if you can just give a little something, people are more likely to give of their finances. So that's all. We would love for you to reach out to us. There's our info. We do have a website and email, and we're on Facebook and TikTok. And if we could help anybody with their fundraising efforts, we would love to do so.
Thank you so much, Laura. That's such a generous offer. And thank you for taking the time to be with us. And most importantly, for all the work you've done for this community. You have been all in 100% on this cause from the moment you saw Eliana's story. So we're just so appreciative to have advocates like you fighting for all of the butterfly children, including those that are no longer with us. So thank you. Now I'd like to pass it over to the Ripple family. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Allison. Damien here with and I apologize. We're going to be bouncing you around from Zoom screen to Zoom screen here today. But first, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to be with you all. An honor to share the Zoom with Annie Patterson and Laura. You guys are doing awesome work. Laura, I wish we would have consulted with you before we got started with fundraising. You have a much more disciplined and methodical approach than we did. So I may be reaching out to you, and Annie, please count us in for 6 survivor pools as well, okay? I just want to take first a moment to acknowledge that it's the individuals that are living with EB and their families, as well as the physicians and clinician researchers that are the true heroes in the EB community. Our family plays a very small role. We're certainly proud to be part of it and inspired to help all of you. Also, a sincere thank you to Allison and the entire EBRP team for everything you guys do and showing the way and supporting our efforts. But most importantly, the progress you've made in driving awareness and creating this special community, obviously all the fundraising, and most importantly, advancing important research. It's been nothing short of amazing, and hats off to the small and mighty team in New York. A little bit about us. So Allison and I, as Allison mentioned, are joined here on the town hall by our 4 kids, Tyler, Sammy, Maya, and Julia. Their current ages are listed there on the slide, and right next to that is the age at which they first got introduced to EBRP and began their efforts in being mini ambassadors for the cause. As noted, we reside in the Pittsburgh area, commonly referred to as the City of Champions, but more proudly today known as the headquarters of Krystal Biotech, which is the makers of Vyjuvek. As you may know, the first FDA-approved EB treatment happened right here in our backyards, which is really special. Allison mentioned some of this just in terms of how we first got involved. We honestly didn't know much about EB prior to 2014. That's when we first learned about it. And, most of what our family does for fun sort of revolves around music and traveling to shows. And it was initially the great work of Pearl Jam and the Vedder family to bring awareness to the PJ community about EB. That's really what provided us with the initial spark. And then as we dug deeper and learned more about the devastating effects of EB, we were simply inspired to help and decided to commit as a family to work together in our community to raise money and to raise awareness. Selfishly, we felt it was really important to engage our kids in philanthropy at young ages, really to help shape their care and empathy muscles a bit and to put their daily challenges into a much broader context. So fast forward in the 11 years since we got involved, with various community-based events, online raffles, as well as EBRP's coordinated efforts, we've just tried to do our best to contribute in a small way. It obviously pales in contrast to the $70 million, I think it was, that EBRP has raised since inception back in 2010, but our little organic efforts here in Pittsburgh have generated a little over $125,000 to date so far. And hopefully it's also helped to raise awareness and inspire many others to be EB active. So Allison, if you don't mind turning the slide there, thank you. Allison and Julia are going to go ahead and kick things off and show you how easy it is to get involved.
Hi, all. I'm Allison.
And I'm Julia.
As Damien said, we're so honored to be a part of today's town hall. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the fundraisers that we've done over the years. And the first fundraiser we're going to touch on briefly is one that's super small scale, simple, low cost, to point out that things don't really always need to be elaborate. Every dollar helps, and that when kids engage hands-on and turn their plans into action, they really can make such an impact.
Through a few summertime lemonade stands in our community, we were able to raise awareness, money, and have fun too. To give you an idea about a possible impact, if 1% of kids in the US ages 16 to 17 each made $50 at a lemonade stand, car wash, or something similar, $25 million could be raised for EBRP.
So kids can be such compelling advocates. And with many of the folks who stop by at these little lemonade stands, once the kiddos you see pictured here shared more about what EB was and what the funds were supporting, a 50-cent give for a cup of lemonade more often than not turned into a much larger donation. So one other little takeaway we learned is that grabbing a few friends to help works to quickly spread wings on the efforts. So that's just starting us off. We're going to pass it over to Maya now to talk more about impact.
Hello. Like every other 11-year-old in 2019, I was obsessed with making slime. So my parents and I went onto Etsy and we just made a profile to sell packages of little EBRP themed slimes. And then all proceeds went directly to benefit EBRP. I, of course, was not yet on social media at the time, so my parents helped with all the marketing and we designed sticker labels for the business, and then Julia helped out with keeping up with the orders. We also sent thank you cards with each delivery to personalize the package and to tell each buyer a little bit about the cause that they were supporting. It was really cool to see the EB community get involved and to see people sharing about Slimes for a Cure and leaving little comments on the Etsy page. Eli and his sister Lily had even purchased from the shop and sent over a picture, so that was super exciting. It was a smaller fundraiser, but every impact matters, and small crafts like this are a really great way for younger EBRP supporters to start getting involved in their own creative ways.
Okay, well, I have to give Allison there at EBRP all the credit for connecting like-minded folks in our community. And I think Nisha's on the call today. So hello, Nisha. Very nice to see you. But Allison introduced us, and Nisha, as I'm sure many of you know, is a strong EB advocate. She's also an EB patient. She was born with EB. And when she's not in Washington, D.C. advocating for the community, she has a passion for wines and actually is certified as a somm herself. And Allison connected that she knew I had a close friend who is a local winemaker, believe it or not, in Pittsburgh. He's also a very well-connected individual in the area. He's a professional photographer and a museum curator. His name is Dwayne, and he's been supporting EBRP in our various fundraising efforts for years. He offered to co-host a virtual wine tasting event in his cellar with Nisha that included storytelling about the wines, a little bit about the winemaking process, some suggestions on foods to pair with. The event was held November of 23. It was right around the time of the holidays, so the wine certainly made for very nice holiday gifts as well. To execute this initiative, we simply ran social media campaigns to invite members of the community to buy tickets. We shipped them all 3 donated bottles of special EBRP labeled wine right to their home. And you can see the labels there in the photo on the slide. They were actually inspired by Eli and Taya. And the bottles with their labels are still available for purchase through Engine House 25 Wines, and we can provide that URL to you guys. And a portion of the proceeds continues to benefit EBRP through the wine sales. So it was just a fun little project. It tapped into the strengths of community members and raised a little bit of money for EB research. So with that, I'm going to turn over now to our sons, Sammy and Tyler, and they're going to say a few words about our raffles.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler. So the raffles have been our most successful fundraising and awareness efforts. The idea is simply to raffle off something of value and just promote it as much as possible. We theme the raffles around the Pearl Jam community, so donating tickets to concerts, covering travel costs, and including some autographed items like posters and tambourines as well. For the first raffle, we teamed up with our friends, the Keeley family, for the Pearl Jam Wrigley 2016 show. And then we did 2 more raffles in 2018 at Wrigley again, as well as most recently in our hometown of Pittsburgh.
Hi, I'm Sam. So we had a really strong support from the EBRP team. They helped us launch the raffle site as well as promote the campaign on social media. The golden rule of fundraising that we learned is that if you don't ask, you won't receive. And most people do want to help. So we tapped into local radio stations, Sirius XM, Pearl Jam Radio, Pearl Jam's Vitology Foundation, social media, fan forums, and Wishlist Foundation. And we even did a little bit of busking at restaurants and in the streets to raise money. We were very happy with the result that we received, and we were never surprised by the generosity of the Pearl Jam community. We incorporated in our most recent raffle around the Pittsburgh Plunge for Patterson, which Maya is going to talk about next.
Yeah, so the Plunge for Elodie has been a growing event for EBRP since 2018. We jumped in just last year to bring a plunge to Pittsburgh, so we've participated in the 2024 and 2025 plunges. This past plunge was especially exciting because it was planned to align with the timing of Pearl Jam's 2 Pittsburgh shows. So a lot of the PJ community joined us for the event and supported while they were in town. The Wishlist Foundation also held 2 events in Pittsburgh that weekend, with all proceeds benefiting EBRP. We joined the Mackenzie's team and backed our friend Patterson, and they even flew in all the way from Seattle to spend the day with us and to go to the PJ show. So that was really amazing. We had plenty of help from Allison and Annie to get the ball rolling and to stock up on supplies. Allison was really great in meeting with us and others hosting plunges to make sure everyone had all the support that they needed. Over the 2 years that we've hosted, there have been so many generous donations and kind words from community members who were just familiarizing themselves with EB and the cause. So the plunge served as both a fundraising opportunity, but also a chance to spread the word about EBRP's efforts. As I had mentioned before, we had lots of support from the Pearl Jam community and local friends. Justin and his Taco Jam truck had been following the band on tour, and they were kind enough to provide food for the event. A silent auction was set up as an extra push past the fundraising done prior to the plunge, and plenty of people donated items to auction off. I also had friends helping from school, many of who plunged with us. Annie and Patterson said a few words before we plunged to tell their story, and then I spoke a little bit just about what we were all there for. And we had some entertainment, so Tyler and our friend Elise played a few songs for us. It was really awesome to see everyone rallying around EBRP and Patterson for those 2 plunges, and we're really excited to host many more in the future.
So we hope this has given a good glimpse today of some ways to engage and get EB active. But we'd be remiss if we didn't mention and point out that the most rewarding part of our participation with these fundraisers has been meeting the kids and their families and making lifelong connections with such extraordinary people who've enriched our lives, and we're so grateful. So thank you so much, and we'll turn it back to Allison for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Damien and Allison, for your incredible leadership and for raising the next generation of leaders too. I mean, Tyler, Sammy, Maya, and Julia, that was amazing. It's so inspiring to see kids helping kids, and it shows that when you care about something, nothing is off limits. Really, anyone can make a difference, and every single dollar, every single event, it all counts. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do. We are going to move to our Q&A session now. So like I said, we're going to prioritize those questions that come in ahead of time. But if you have any questions or thoughts at all, feel free to pop them in the chat. And if we don't have time now, we'll certainly get to them afterwards. So our first question is, what advice do you have for someone just starting out who feels passionate about EB but is unsure of where to begin? And maybe Laura, you can kick us off for this one.
Sure. I mean, that's exactly where me and 800 other people in Eliana's Army were back in April. None of us knew what to do. Everyone had random ideas, and we just tried to channel them all. But like I mentioned earlier, one of the main things was raising awareness. And so for me, I wear my Eliana's Army merch all the time. And as Annie pointed out, when she got the diagnosis for Patterson, she didn't really want to talk about it to strangers. And so what we have found is that as advocates for the EB community, it's easier for us to talk about it. We're not directly affected by it. So I do want to talk about it all the time. So I do wear merch everywhere I go and just try to open up conversation. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it has just kind of led to little things. I happened to make a video on TikTok that went viral, crying over Ellie's story, which is kind of how I ended up in this group anyways. But and then someone reached out to me and said, I'm also affected and I'd like to host a motorcycle ride. Well, I don't know anything about motorcycle rides, but sure. How can I help? And so really it's just getting involved in the community that you already know and figuring out little ways to do something, fake sales in your garage, silly sales in your garage. So yeah, I think you can absolutely start small and just talk about it because no one knows about this disease.
That's such good advice, Laura. And the awareness is just as, if maybe not like more sometimes, important than the fundraising, because if people don't know about it, they're not going to give to it. Amy, did you want to chime in on that question as well?
Sure. I really just think what you all have shared and you shared in the slides, like your resources, we've used your resources, the email templates, the planning guides, the donation pages, the check-ins, like it's like a team that's helpful, and it's not just you that has to take the burden of kind of trying to like fumble your way through that if you've never done it. I also think for us, like, I don't know if anybody else has this, but we have this like forever fear that like no one's going to show up. You're going to like spend all this time planning this event and you're going to put all this effort into it. And then it's like, And I just think it's really important to not let that stop you, because you're going to focus on creating something meaningful. And even if it's for a small group, like sometimes the most impactful connections happen in intimate settings. And so, you're going to prepare, you're going to promote with passion, and just remember, like, you'll find the value in the event, even if the numbers aren't what you thought they would be. But it's really about energy and intention. And there will be people that show up, I promise. We do events hours away and people will show up. And so don't let any of those fears stop you. You have a team of resources. And just as Laura said, and I know, Damien and the Ripple family, like everyone's here as a community to support each other. And so never hesitate to reach out. So that's my advice.
Thank you, Annie. There definitely is a team here at EBRP behind everyone doing these events. We've put a lot of effort into evolving the program over the past couple of years since I've been here, and we're always evolving. So feel free to throw a new event at us, ask us for new materials, ask us new questions, and we'll be happy to rise to the occasion. Our next question, maybe we'll start with the Ripple family. How do you keep your supporters engaged year after year?
Yeah, first I want to say hi to Patterson there. Hi, buddy.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, well, I guess number one, I'd say I think just the cause is so inherently important and special that it's really not very difficult at all to keep people engaged. I think just this is community with like all capital letters. It is really a tight-knit and special community. And I think people just gravitate once they start to learn more about the cause and about the kids and how devastating this disease is and how badly it needs funded and cured. And I would say, as far as how we've kept folks engaged with our core friends and family, it just sort of happens organically. They come to us and ask us like, when's the next fundraiser going to be? Because they know one's coming soon. But beyond that, we have accumulated a list of contacts of individuals that have donated or contributed in some form or another to our various fundraisers. So we take to social media, to text, to email, and we make sure that they're included when we are doing bigger events to raise as much as possible. We are mindful of potential donor fatigue. It's a small community here in Pittsburgh, but we do try to space events out so that we don't do one every month. So they're a little more impactful and more broadly participated. And then I just would say, every year we meet new people, whether through work, through touring, through friends of friends or elsewhere, and there's always new people to engage with. So it's a special community, and one that's really easy in my mind to cultivate and to grow and to just folks feel really attached to. Such an important cause.
Absolutely. Thank you, Damien. Annie, if you want to jump in there as well, I would love your thoughts, and maybe we'll combine it with a question as well of how do you keep your supporters engaged, but also what has surprised you about maybe your supporters or the kind of events that you've hosted, the outcome that you've seen from them.
Sure. Well, I think for us, like sharing updates, like the momentum of the actual events and the fundraising, like to have 3 FDA approved treatments over the course of like just the last few years, I think that excites everyone, and they know like, wow, what we are doing together here is actually making such a huge difference. And we love to share. Patterson is lucky enough to be on one of those treatments, and it has just helped his quality of life so much. Like, we share that with everyone in our community, those who have shown up. I think it really just keeps people engaged, and they know that they're making a difference. So I would just add that. Okay, so I actually have had a few surprises, but at this stage in life, like making new friends isn't really easy. And through this experience, I have just met some super incredible people who were complete strangers and who have shown up, and I think just like-mindedness and generosity and joy, and it's just built these meaningful relationships with other, EB members, but also like just people that have shown up at the events because they've heard about it. It's just been very unexpected. And I think, when you unite for a cause, it's just bigger than yourself. And we have just found really meaningful connections that we just did not expect. So I would say that's the best surprise we've had.
Oh, that's a great one, and that makes me so happy to hear. I know we're coming up on time, so we'll move ahead to our wrap-up section. But if anyone's any questions on their mind that they didn't get to ask, like I said, feel free to pop those in the chat. We'll be monitoring those and taking notes there to follow up with you afterwards. So how can everyone on this call take what they've learned today and take some action to support our unstoppable EB community and accelerate our mission? First, we do have some really exciting local events coming up that we wanted to make you all aware of. In exactly 1 week now, I believe from today, the Seattle Mariners will face off against the San Diego Padres for the final round of this year's Vetter Cup. So join us on August 26th for a special game to support the EB community. And thank you, Katrina, for popping all these links that I'm going to be talking about in the chat. We also next month have a very fun opportunity with the New York Liberty, the WNBA's reigning champions. So if you're in the New York City area, come hang out with us. It's going to be such a fun night. And it's also Fan Appreciation Night and the Liberty Games' last home game of the season. And a portion of every ticket purchase using the special link that Katrina is going to drop in the chat benefits EB. So it won't just be a fun game. It'll also be for a great cause. And lastly, we're also excited to invite you to Weston's Wishes' third annual golf tournament. This community event is a great example of how to rally your supporters to participate in something that they're interested in, but it's also tons of fun. I got to go to the first golf tournament 2 years ago now, and it was just a blast. And I don't even golf, but there was such great food and cool prizes and a great community. So if you're in the Houston area or know anyone who is, this is definitely an event you won't want to miss. And lastly, as we talked about a little bit earlier in the beginning, it's not the science that's a roadblock to further progress. It really is the funding. So if you're looking for a way to amplify your impact and support promising research on an ongoing basis, we would love for you to consider joining The Effect, which is EBRP's monthly giving program. For the cost of as little as a cup of coffee per month, you not only directly support the research that we want to fund, you also get exclusive early access to events, dedicated updates, merch discounts, and so much more. So you can click the link in the chat to learn more. Be sure to also follow EBRP on social media and sign up for our newsletters to stay on top of the exciting updates in the space, meet the members of our community via some really beautiful stories and so much more. And lastly, of course, we hope that you're inspired to join us and to get EB active in your community in whatever way you can. If you'd like to learn more about the program, or if you have any questions from today on how to get started, you want to send me an idea, anything at all, feel free to reach out to me personally at allison@ebresearch.org. I would be more than happy to help. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to learn from our really incredible speakers. I know we're virtual, but let's just finish with giving them a round of applause. That was incredible from everyone. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us to speak and to listen. We hope to see you next time, and have a great night.